Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Christ the royal master leads against the foe. Forward into battle, see his banners go. Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war, with the cross of Jesus going on before. Oh, for a faith that will not shrink, though pressed by every foe, that will not tremble on the brink of any earthly woe, that will not murmur or complain beneath a chastening rod, but in the hour of grief or pain will lean upon its God. A faith that shines more bright and clear when tempest rage without, that when in danger knows no fear, in darkness feels no doubt. Lord, give us such a faith as this, and then whatever may come, we'll taste and hear the hallowed bliss of an eternal home. A charge to keep I have, a God to glorify, a never-dying soul to save, and fitted for the sky, to serve the present age, my calling to fulfill. Oh, may it all my powers engage to do my Master's will. Arm me with jealous care, as in thy sight to live, and O thy servant, Lord, prepare a strict account to give. Help me to watch and pray, and on thyself rely. Assured if I my trust betray, I shall forever die. Rise up, O men of God, have done with lesser things. Give heart and mind and soul and strength to serve the King of Kings. Rise up, O men of God, his kingdom tarries long. Bring in the day of brotherhood and end the night of wrong. Rise up, O men of God, the church for you doth wait. Her strength unequal to her task, rise up and make her great. Lift high the cross of Christ, tread where his feet have trod. As brothers of the Son of Man, rise up, O men of God. Good evening. Let's edify one another, shall we? Hello, Skylar. How's that chicken noodle soup doing? It's been a day that ends in Y. Hello, Reba. Hello, Maureen. Good to see y'all. Oh, I'm tired. Just plain tired. Got home from route this morning and was sitting there getting ready to go live. Then Dad called me and needed my O'Shea and my help, so we had to make a beeline for Mom and Dad's. She's doing better now. She was struggling pretty good this morning, so they took her to the doctor. Uh, by the time they got in to see the doctor, why everything seemed to check out fine. We don't know. They took some labs and sent her home, so we'll see what that says. One of the things that we have found as helpful when we're dealing with, uh, hello, Anna, okay, good to see you. When we're dealing with colds and, or even in the midst of summer when you're dealing with heat and stuff, instead of getting Gatorade, don't get that sugar water because it's not good for you. Even no matter how much they say it is, it's full of pretty much just sugar and a bunch of dyes. Yes, there's a little bit of salt and a smidge of electrolytes to it, but it's on the whole not good for you. So um, this is unsponsored, by the way, but we tend to get body armor, and it uses natural flavors and sweeteners. It uses coconut water instead of just regular. It's got the electrolytes and the potassium, antioxidants, and B vitamins. It has no colors from any artificial sources. And O'Shea went and did the actual research one summer day, him and his boss, and they discovered it was way better for you, ingredient wise and nutrient wise, than what you could find with Gatorade. So when we're sick, we tend to kind of get to stock up on a bunch of this body armor and drink it to help keep us hydrated. Well, I took some down to Mom this morning, and just in this nice, lovely baby armor size, what we call it, and I don't know if that's what did it or not, but we'll kind of say it did. Perked her up a bit. She drank some before we got her into the vehicle, and And we got her into the vehicle, and I gave it back to her, and I'm sitting there talking to her, as I get it back to her, I'm kind of chatting with her while Dad's and as O'Shea are finishing putting up the wheelchair in the back of the car, and Dad comes around, and Mom's like, "Chris, you ought to try some of this. This is really good." Makes him take a drink of it. I don't know. Might swing by the store tomorrow morning, grab some, and run it out to him. Don't know. Anyhow, how are things on y'all's end? Florida got 10 inches of snow, I heard. Man, they won't know what to do with themselves for the next week. Of course, it'll all be gone by probably Friday. Might have to lend them a few snowplows. Was delicious. What did you think of those dumplings? Those are real dumplings, Skylar. Not that large stuff you get in the cans. You ever have dumplings like that before? I ain't gonna sing for you tonight. Sorry, folks. As you can tell, I'm still dealing with a residual cough, and it's gnarly. You know, when I was growing up, that's the only way that Mom made. That's the only dumplings I ever had. So imagine my disappointment when I get a can of chicken and dumplings, and I heat that up, and the chicken and dumpling, and the dumplings taste nothing but like lumps of lard. Lycia, I guess I don't have to yell for her. She's on the other side. She's on tech. Why don't you get me a bowl of that real quick? I'll show the folks what we're talking about. Reba, you ain't kidding there, Skyler. Reba says Houston and Galveston got snow too. We got about 280, 28 and a half snowflakes there. I don't know if y'all know how to make dumplings or not. I'm assuming y'all do. But dumplings vary by definition around the country. Obviously, because somebody defined dumpling as lumps of lard dough. Ugh. To me, when I looked at their dumplings were nothing more than thick noodles. Whereas, can I have a big spoon? I'm going to see if I can actually see myself moving here now. No, that's not it. Hey, it's moving. Light on. Nice, lovely chicken noodle soup with dumplings. These are the dumplings. You know, don't that look good? You cut into it. That does not look like lumps of lard. It don't. They're very simple to make because all you have to do is make up a batch of biscuit dough. Make sure your soup's nice and lovely, boiling hot, and I mean boiling. Throw them in. They'll cook pretty quick. Yep. And it's like I told Alicia when she was making the biscuits, I said, all you have to do, the good thing about this is you can flavor it you can flavor those dumplings any way you want to. If you want to throw a little extra garlic in there, if you want to throw some like herbs in there, you can flavor them things whatsoever way you want to. And I remember mom when she was making it when I was growing up, she'd actually throw in and do a dash of paprika on the top just for some extra color. But that's going to be my supper. And when we make soup, we go all out. I mean, we don't do anything by half measures. By the way, you've seen my chili. Imagine instead of 3 pots of chili, we do one big pot of soup. But we just don't do it in the cast iron. I actually have big. Well, I'd rather have copper, but those things are so sneaking expensive. I have aluminum. Yeah, we did have a lot of flurries. When I was going down to route this afternoon, Skylar, it was uh, snowing so hard it looked like it was fog all over Adair. Closer I got to Adair, I couldn't hardly see the water tower. I could make it out, but it was, there's going to be school tomorrow. It didn't last. See Skylar's comment? Uh, yeah, there's going to be school tomorrow. Nice. CJ says he's got an update on his uh, apartment. His move in moving. I was going to have another word there, but I'm not going to. Anyway. Oh yeah, there we go. His moving mayhem. Um, he says he got a call today. Maybe it was yesterday, but he got a call anyway. And They will call him tomorrow after they finish painting, and they've got to Friday. I think they're gonna replace some carpet, and then contact him about and schedule the actual move-in date. So, oh, they're gonna actually schedule. Or they're gonna replace the carpet. They're doing the painting today and scheduling or replacing carpet and scheduling the move-in date tomorrow. That's what I said. Oh, painting tomorrow, and then the carpet on Friday. Right. They'll probably have an inspection before you move in. Let you come and inspect it. Yeah, I do. I actually have a doctor's appointment on Monday. Well, we'll see what O'Shea has. Oh. You are fiddling around with PowerPoint. We won't say anything about the college course that I took back in 2003, 2004 regarding PowerPoint. Actually, regarding Office. So anyway, Skylar says froze. Then go inside, Skylar. Get near the fire. It is because it's actually freezing outside. You know, sitting here trying to think of what I was going to do. I mean, yeah, I can continue chatting, but I don't want to just bore you to tears with all my day. O'Shea's like, yeah, you went sideways, froze, lost audio. I left, came back, and you were so fine. So who knows? Okay. If you got a question, let me know. Maybe. Well, the problem you're having, CJ, is that it isn't very obvious because you just asked a question about it. Didn't I mention anything about this in the class? Well, yeah, but that's why it's recorded. You could. CJ wants to know about Genesis chapter 22 and the trial of Abraham, the testing of his faith. Leslie is bringing up the Bible here so we can look at it. Verse 12. In verse 10, Abraham stretches forth his hand, takes the knife to slay his son. Um, and the angel of the Lord called unto him out of heaven, in verse 11, and says, Abraham, Abraham. And Abraham responds, saying, Here am I. And the messenger of the Lord says, Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither, verse 14, or verse 12, excuse me, verse 12. Verse 12, please, Alicia. Verse 12. Lay not thine hand upon the lad, neither do anything unto him, for now I know that thou fearest God, seeing thou hast not withheld thy son, thine only son, from me. First off, like I alluded to, if you look at verse 1, this is a trial of Abraham. Now, the King James translators are idiots because they went and they said God did tempt Abraham. But we already know from other verses God tempteth no man. Um, where's that one at? Right. James 1 tells us God tempts no man. Neither is he tempted. James 1 verse 13. Let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. Now, in Hebrews chapter 11, what we do find, however, in verse 17, is that Abraham was tried, was tested. By faith, Abraham, when he was tested or tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son. So we understand that this is a trial, this is a testing of the faith, and God tests us in the same manner, not with the exact same test, perhaps. I mean, how many of you guys have had to go out and lay your only begotten son on the altar? Not me, but however, we are tested. Our faith is tested. And so jumping down in Genesis 22 to verse 12, the the angel says, "For now I know that thou fearest God." Who else knew that he feared God? No. Didn't Abraham? No. What are trials for? What's the purpose of trials? Oh, by the way, you better come in here at least on audio. We're having this lovely conversation and nobody else is hearing your side of the conversation. Um,
Man, hide behind the image.
oh, there you are. Yeah.
Hey, I'm here. I think. Can somebody verify this? Can you hear me?
Actually, says anyone to try to take Sarah, his wife, whenever he was visiting, thinking she was his sister. I'm not sure what that one was for, O'Shea, but anyway.
Can y'all hear me? Hey.
Yes, they can hear. All right. Reba says she thinks it's to strengthen us. For patience, says Maureen. Turn with me to First Peter chapter 1, verses 6 through 8. 6 through 9, rather. First Peter 1, 6 through 9. Wherein ye greatly rejoice, though now for a season, if need be, ye are in heaviness through manifold temptations, that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perisheth, though it be tried with fire, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Jesus Christ, whom having not seen ye love, in whom though now ye see him not, yet believing, ye rejoice with joy unspeakable and full of glory, receiving the end of your faith, even the salvation of your souls. So Peter says that the trial of our faith is to bring forth praise, honor, and glory at the end. That's to bring forth joy unspeakable and the salvation of our souls at Jesus' appearing. The trial of Abraham's faith brought forth the same response. It brought forth glory, it brought forth praise, it brought forth honor. And indeed, it also brought forth um, joy unspeakable because How long was Isaac dead in Abraham's mind?
3 days.
3 days. So when God stayed his hand and said, Abraham, stop, don't do anything unto that child, I'm convinced there's there's a sacrifice behind you. Did Abraham receive his son with joy unspeakable?
And in figure, he received him back from the dead.
He did. And that's what Hebrews 11 tells us, that, in that regard, Isaac was the shadow of the incarnate Christ. In that Jesus was dead 3 days. Jesus was the only begotten of the Father. He was dead for 3 days, and then he was resurrected. But what this did was prove, one, that Abraham was completely devoted to God, even though he had received the promise of he'd received that promise, that only begotten son. He didn't let that come between him and God. Could it have come between him and God?
Yep, he could have said, "You want me to do what?" Uh, yeah, God, I left my home not knowing where I was going. I waited for the sun. I believed you then, but this is too much. He could have said, you, you,
Yeah.
let's explode. I'm willing to go with this.
Yet he recognized where he had received his son from. How many times have we received goodness from God and then turned around and thumbed our noses? Well, we got what we wanted. And for a short period of time, we just turned our back. Now, it may be, for example, we got that paycheck that we needed so desperately, or we got a blessing of, someone granted us some money that we needed to pay some bills, and there was enough extra, and so what would we do? We went out and we spent it, and splurged and spent rather unwisely, perhaps. Well, in a way, taking what God has blessed us with, and yes, we may have uh, celebrated, or we may have gotten something we wanted. About we paid our bills and then got something that we wanted, but we could have been better stewards with what we got. Right, saved up that money for the tire that blew about 2 days after we got done getting what we wanted. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to learn wisdom. Now, the idea that for now I know that thou fearest God. Here's the thing: God knows all. Like you've already pointed out, He's omniscient. He knows everything that's going to happen. However, Is it not up to us to make a decision?
Yeah.
We have the ability to make free will or to make choices in how we respond to God, right?
Yep.
Does that mean everything's a given? That CJ is going to absolutely and always 100% choose the right way?
Well, no, but that's not gonna surprise God.
Was this a surprise to God?
No.
If Abraham had have said no, would that have surprised God?
No, I guess that would be what he already saw down the pipeline if that's what happened.
To say that because God knows everything, that means that everything is cast in stone, um, is to say that there is no free will. I mean, it's just because God knows everything does not mean that everything is going to, uh, or let me put it in another way. God knows everything. That means He knows that we can say yes, and what will happen if we say yes, and then He knows what's going to happen if we say no. And ultimately, He knows which way we're going to say, where we're going to go. But we still have to make that decision. Just like Pharaoh had to make the decision to harden his heart, God didn't do it for him. In Pharaoh's case, the situation, what happened, what occurred, led to him hardening his heart. And so, in essence, what God did, the actions that God took, caused Pharaoh to harden his heart. Pharaoh still could have let the people go at any point in time. Any point along that time, he could have made the decision to let them go. Instead, he chose to harden his heart because of the miracles that were happening.
Right.
And so, in essence, what we can say then, if Alicia takes us back to Genesis 22 and verse 12, is I know for sure which way you go. I am assured you fear God.
Well, that's what's mind boggling to me. You know, why would God say, but because you're right, He knows our decisions, but He also knows the outcome. So can God be how could God be assured of say he is now assured when he was already assured before?
But you see, you are operating on the idea that God was doubting.
No,
Yes. Or that like God's knowledge is incomplete.
no, no, I know that God's knowledge is complete. I'm not assuming that he learned something here, but I'm trying to make this make sense in what I already know about God.
But that's the problem. If you're struggling to make it make sense, which means you don't understand, you get me because you doubt. There's a kernel of doubt in there. Alicia, bring me up to KJV plus, please.
Could that be translated I acknowledge?
Now let's go to verse 12. Is there a difference between being assured and acknowledging it? Let's go down to the H3045, 3045. Come on, sweetheart. 3045. And by the way, all these words have an H in front of them. So all these numbers have H's in front of them. So don't even worry about the H. 3045.
The
It's right at
word,
the bottom of the screen, girl.
the word no.
Used in a great variety of senses. Figuratively, literally, euphemistically, and I can't remember. I don't know what that other word is. Keep scrolling. There's your word acknowledge.
So maybe this is God not. This isn't God saying I've learned that you fear God because what you just did right now. I acknowledge your faith again. I acknowledge that you fear God to you.
One might say confirm,
Yeah, I confirmed it.
because remember, this is a trial. What does a trial do? Is a
Try,
trial not to confirm something?
yeah,
I mean, we put things through a trial to see if they hold up, right?
yeah,
We put them through a test to see if they hold up. And so we could say then with 100% certainty, for I confirm that you fear God, seeing you have not withheld your son, your only son, from me.
So is this more for Abraham than for God saying, "Ah, now I know"? Is this for the human side? Like he's already known for decades and decades, even before Abraham was born, what Abraham was gonna do to Isaac. So is this maybe confirmation for Abraham?
Let's look down at verses 16 through 18.
One of these passages that mm, I've wrestled with, like, what?
16 through 18. And said, oh, by the way, 15 through 18. Back up a
And
verse, Alessia. And the messenger of the Lord called unto Abraham out of heaven the second time, and said, By myself I have sworn, saith the Lord, for because you have done this thing, and have not withheld thine son, thine only son, that in blessing I will bless thee, and in multiplying I will multiply thy seed as the stars of heaven, and as the sand which is upon the seashore. And thy seed shall possess the gate of his enemies. And in thy seed shall all the nations of the earth be blessed, because thou hast obeyed my voice. So what do we see here? What we see here is that the land, or the blessing, the nation and blessing promise of given to Abraham was in jeopardy, but it was reconfirmed because of Abraham's passing of the test.
right,
Now, this is a direct, by the way, this is a direct tie to Hebrews 6:14. Remember, I have sworn by myself.
could this also be connected to Second Corinthians 2, where Paul talks about how we don't know what God's thinking until He's revealed it to us?
We never know what God's thinking unless he reveals it to us.
So could that be part of the reason why He says this to Abraham to reveal what He's thinking?
First, the testing served several things. It proved to Abraham that his faith in God was unshakable. Abraham's, over 100 years old. He's followed God all this time. He's finally received a son. Is he going to receive the rest? God says, well, take your son to this mountain I'm just going to show you of, and there offer him for a sacrifice. I don't see how this is going to help, but all right. He gets up, takes his young men, some wood, fire, sun, donkey, goes. 3 days. By this time in Abraham's life, obedience to God has been so ingrained within his psyche, within his mind, he doesn't even question God. does he?
Yeah.
He just gets up and he goes. Oh, that every single one of us at any age were so devoted to God that we would stop our petty questioning of God and be like our father Abraham, get up and go.
Amen.
Now, what this does, the trial of Abraham's faith proves to Abraham, my faith is unshakable. The trial of Abraham's faith proves to Isaac, Dad really believes in this God. And it is a core belief that Abraham passes to Isaac. Son, I don't know why God has said this, but he said it. So we're going to go 3 days journey and we're going to offer a sacrifice. Time came, son, God gave me you, and now he's going to take you, and now he wants me to give you back to him. And you know that that was a hard thing for Abraham to do. And it was a hard thing for Isaac to have to watch, to even consider. Talk about mental trauma.
Uh-huh.
And yet we have to call the school counselor if and have to go through years of counseling if we so much if our child so much as stubs their toe.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and what happens is because of Abraham's faith, God confirms before Isaac, before Abraham, you have passed this test. Your faith in God is sure. Now, if you want to say, I know, that's fine. If you want to say, I confess that you fear God, that's also acceptable. If you want to say, I confirm, I acknowledge, those are also acceptable words to say there as we looked at the definition of the word to know. According to Brown Driver Briggs, either way, the messenger has confirmed that Abraham has passed that test. And as a result, the blessing of God, or the blessing of Abraham by God, I will bless you, I will multiply you, and all the nations of the earth will be blessed from your seed. Um, that is reconfirmed
Yeah.
because he passes that test. No, God knew exactly what was going to happen. Abraham still had to make that choice. And in so doing, confirmed the choice that God knew was going to be made.
Yeah. This passage was used several weeks ago to say that when they went to Palmer Grove, the preacher there said, no, no, how did he put it? God can learn, or God, oh, God has an aha moment in Genesis 22. He was talking about people who had a aha moment, and what he meant by that, people who were doing wrong and then said, you know what, this is the moment I turn it around. And even God has aha moments. And I'm like, no,
No, that's absolutely incorrect because otherwise that denies God's omniscience.
yeah, I'm like, this,
God knows, either God is all knowing or he is not. However, there again, like I've said before, we still have to make that choice.
right,
Now, God's knowledge is confirmed,
through human choices, right?
but no, God doesn't have aha moments. God laid out a plan from the world began because he knew all the particulars of what was going to happen.
I'm like, there's no, I don't think that's right. You can't draw that from the text.
No,
That that has dangerous implications if you take it all away. I think.
it does because if God has aha moments, then he's not truly omniscient.
Aha! The Jews rejected Jesus, so I guess I'm gonna build the church.
That's right. All right. Well,
Well,
I think
thank
we are about ready to hit that hour mark, aren't we?
we are in 102:55.
What?
We are past the hour.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. I was just going to talk about Lamentation chapter 3, so that's okay. So we got good content out of this one, so good mileage. Maybe we'll see what tomorrow brings. All right, y'all. Hopefully and prayerfully you have been edified. Thank you, CJ, for the question. And I'm going to go enjoy my soup. So hopefully y'all have been edified by our discussion tonight, drawn closer, and hopefully it helps bring you a bit of comfort knowing that your trials are not just willful, negligent, uh, at the whims of a capricious God. Your trials serve a purpose, and they're for your good, primarily to show you that, hey, you can do this by God's help, by His grace, and His mercy. We got this by God's grace and by the help of each other. We got this. With that being said, whether we wake tomorrow to serve God here on this earth, or we wake tomorrow to serve God up there where we all long to be, where I'll have the honor, the privilege, and the pleasure of being. For I'll see you then. God bless in your walk with Him. I love you.